I am recording this video because I've probably had over 100 conversations with agency owners around the country over the last 4 years who are considering hiring a virtual assistant, a remote worker, and they want to know what our experience has been, and they want to know how we started, what kind of tasks we have VAs do, some of the challenges, roadblocks, issues we kind of ran into, how we overcame them, so on and so forth. And I found that the questions are all very similar from conversation to conversation. So I figured after 4 years of having repeated conversations, I'd probably help everyone involved, the agency owners who are considering hiring VAs. Agency VA, our preferred vendor that we use, as well as myself, for just doing one video, touching on a number of items. And I'll be brief, but touching on a couple items that I know would help and help save a lot of time. So, little background: I founded G&N Insurance in 2010 with my partner Zach. We grew it from scratch for 9 years. Pretty aggressive growth, mainly personal lines. Got up to about 12,000 clients, just under 5 million in revenue, and we transacted and sold our business in November of 19 to the Hild Group. And we're working now, still running our division at G&N through the Hild Group in the region, doing a number of other things for the company. But that's kind of our journey in a nutshell, cutting out the 9 years of failure and success and challenges and wins and all that other stuff. We consulted over 70 agencies through a Babylon platform, consulting and coaching group. Traveled the country for a couple of years and spoke in different stages about different topics and all kinds of stuff, implementing systems to help agency owners and agencies grow with deeper levels of accountability and organization, blah, 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 blah. So a lot of experience in the space, still a lot to learn, but have helped a lot of people in the space, deep understanding of how to scale agencies operationally as well as sales and marketing. And I've about 4.5 years ago, we realized we were hitting a ceiling in terms of our operation and the capacity that we had with the current team members we had. And the only way we were kind of continuing to grow on the support side is hiring, trying to find good quality, licensed, experienced CSRs and sales reps, et cetera, to just sort of add to the team because we had a lot of labor needs. And unfortunately, the frustrating part of that is it's challenging to find those individuals. B, if you do, it's also very challenging to onboard, to train, to incorporate in your culture, to then manage, and all the other things that come along with having a full-time W-2 employee. And C, it is expensive. It's expensive to have a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 employee doing a lot of tasks that really are sort of processing related and remedial work. Really important, tons of them, but not something that an experienced licensed person should really be doing. So we started dabbling in VAs 4.5 years ago. We worked with a company, I won't say their name, but we worked with another company, and their model was very similar to some of the other big shops out there where, you have 50 onboarding tasks, or you have 50 download tasks for renewal, or you need policy checks to be done, whatever it might be. You kind of upload all that to a server. Then overnight, all that's handled by a variety of people who you don't know, they don't know you, but they're just working through those tasks. So that's helpful for sure. But there was a lot of things missing there. There was no accountability. There was no immediacy. The scope of work that could be done by that VA was very limited, even though they could do a particular item very well, and a lot of it. The scope was very limited. So we kind of got to a point where like, well, they can't do this, they can't do this, they can't do this, they can't do this, so we're going to continue to have to do it. So we left that company. We started with agency VA, and we started with one virtual assistant. And we love the model in the sense that they would be working just with us as a full-time employee, even though it wouldn't be an employee, it'd be outsourced through agency VA and a credit card expense. with none of the other things that come along with, obviously having a full-time employee. But they would be incorporated with our team. They would have credentials like everyone else. They would be in our meetings weekly with everyone. They would be, could learn anything and do anything at the agency that we asked. So we love that customization component. We love the accountability and the fact that they'd only be working with us, only knowing our team and our process and our clients. That was a huge game changer for us. We started with one, and now we have 13. I mean, we really have grown over the last 4 years, primarily with virtual assistants. And we haven't let go of anyone domestically, but as we continue to hit ceilings of growth and size and capacity, adding VAs to offshore more and more stuff from our domestic licensed experienced individuals wasn't just a very profitable decision, allowing us to continue to grow. It was easier to onboard these individuals. It elevated our domestic team. I elevated them to do things that were more complex and client-facing, conversations, coverage, claims, etc., without having to be bogged down with a lot of the back-end processing. So I know a lot of agencies across the country use VAs for a lot of different things. Agency VA, their VAs are in Puerto Rico and the Philippines, and I think in other countries as well. They have licensed VAs. They have people who can hop on the phone as telemarketers. They can have quoters. They have a lot of different things that you can do. And we have primarily focused on back of the house processing, support, integrity, follow up. All the stuff that needs to be done, prepping the team members to win. Some of the stuff just to touch on that we have them do on the sales side. We have them support the sales team members. So really, basically, once the sales rep gets to the yes from the client, everything else is done by the VA. Now, that takes training and time. I'll touch on that in a minute. But once they got the yes from the client, they make an email introduction to Dan or Irish or Lucinda or Sherilyn, our onboarding VAs. The client doesn't know it's a virtual assistant. They handle it just like anyone on our team would. But it's an email introduction saying, hey, this is the person who's going to be helping you on the back end. Make sure that policies are canceled. Make sure that your binder is sent to your bank. Make sure that your policies are issued. We confirm your closing date. The declaration pages are sent out, payments processed, all that kind of stuff. Well, allows a sales rep to just sort of now move on to the next quote, the next opportunity, the next call, the next close. And then allows the onboarding team to sort of run with it. Because over the years, that's a huge time suck, especially when you're doing high volume production. So that was super helpful. We have 3 or 4 people doing that. We have 3 or 4 people in the service support side, midterm, like mid-year. So like any COI request that comes in from anywhere goes into and handled by one virtual assistant who's mastered that. We have mortgagee changes, we have address changes, any basically non-premium bearing changes that requires licensed discussions, licensed advice, recommendations, endorsements that can be handled by VAs. And there's a laundry list. We also have a VA whose primary job is to follow up, make sure that everything that every service rep did has been done correctly as said. So it's a quality control measure so that we don't have E&O issues for just not processing things. We also have a VA who is basically the lead coordinator on the sales side, making sure there's a consistent, immediate response to all leads that come in anywhere, the same way every single time, and then sets our sales reps up by setting that lead up in the system and creating a new opportunity and then round robining and moving forward. Same thing on the service side. We have Chester, who handles any inbound requests from anything, websites, emails, phone call, whatever comes in. He takes it, he identifies the need, he creates a service ticket, assigns it to the appropriate account manager, or assigns it to another VA. We have people who just work on uploading documents to take that off the team, uploading documents, retitling things. We have people working on the renewal process so that they pull reports and categorize based off of the nature of the renewal, determine if it's a sales opportunity, if it's a service opportunity, if there's a rewrite or remarket opportunity. and just for data integrity, checking commissions, checking premiums, checking that it renewed correctly, the carrier, all that kind of stuff. So we have them really supporting every sort of department at the agency, and we could have them do more, but that's been super, super helpful. In terms of like training and effective training, one of the most important things that we kind of identified early on was that we didn't want to have a VA do like 30 different things, 30 different types of tasks. It'd be a recipe for disaster, not just VAs, but anyone you're trying to train. Wearing that many hats is just not a good idea. So we really started with just one task. Let's just say it was COIs. I forget what it was. Maybe it was LPRs or something. COIs. We just wanted to say, hey, CJ, you're our first VA. We want you to master COIs. We get 100 of them a week. Here's how you do it. To touch on the actual process, the most important things is you have it documented, how to actually process a COI in checklist format, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, written, but also with screenshots of what that looks like. So they have examples and they can refer back to it. Very basic training, but like most agencies I've talked to over the years, including us for many years, didn't have any of that. Didn't have a training protocol with screenshots and checklist format and everything. So actually training the VAs from 4.5 years ago on has really helped us sort of improve. But that's super important so that they can refer back to it and they don't have to just call, and it just eliminates a lot of mistakes and redundancy. And then we had weekly check-ins. How's it going? What's going on? What's working? What's not working? How can we improve? We did screen shares for the first month or so until CJ mastered it. It doesn't take a long time to master it if you're only focusing on one thing and you're seeing a ton of them. If she had more bandwidth, then we just added a second task and said, hey, we have a lot of LPRs that need to be created and sent out for signature. This is how you do it. Checklist format, screenshots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll check in every week. We'll talk about what's working, what's not working. We'll do some screen shares, make sure you're coming along right. And then, once that's done, you're owning that. Every LPR that comes in and every COI that needs to be done, that's CJ's job. Now, CJ is fully booked. She's got no time left. She's working her butt off, sun up to sundown. Actually, and since they're in the Philippines, it's probably overnight. But working our real time, she's in our system. She's in our Teams messaging chat. She's in our weekly video calls. She has a scorecard number that she has to hit, that she's measured on, just like everyone else. She brings up issues that need to be resolved and processes that need to be improved. So we really do treat our VAs just like everyone else on the team. Just because they're in the Philippines and they're not a domestic W-2 employee doesn't mean that they aren't adding as much value, if not more, than a lot of our domestic licensed people. And so, and then we'd add another one. Another virtual assistant would come on board and say, hey, that worked out really well. CJ's doing COIs and LPRs. Can you handle blah, 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 and so on and so forth. The nice thing is once CJ came on and kind of like mastered that, she could train the next VA on what she learned. And then CJ would learn the next task, so on and so forth. So you have this almost chain of cascading training so that you're not responsible for doing it all. And they're really, really effective at sharing that training and getting everyone up to speed. So our most veteran VAs have really done like almost everything at the agency we'd want them to do. And they can really act as a really good training mechanism with new VAs coming on board. So that's been extremely helpful. I think that touches on most of the items that I typically get questions on. Really important to obviously have them in those virtual meetings weekly, making sure that every team member knows that how much they're doing, giving them shout outs, making sure we're pulling out issues that they have and trying to really resolve those issues in a timely manner. Just like any other team member, we treat them that way. They've really been able to elevate our current team members by doing so much of the back end stuff. We could have them quote new business. We could have them telemarket. We could have them do social media things. We could have them do individual executive assistant calendar and email responses and all that kind of stuff. But we really have found a lot of success with the back end support. So hopefully this has been helpful. It's been extremely profitable decision for us. It's an extremely positive one. Our team absolutely loves our VAs. We are all one team at this stage. And we've been able to continue to grow and scale without as much pain and trouble as we had before, with a little bit less management, obviously a lot less cost. So it's been really successful. Now, it's not perfect. Not every VA works out. Not every training opportunity works out really well. Not every task we ask somebody to do actually ends up being one that we want to offshore. But it is just like anything else. You try and try and try, and you figure out what works, and then you stick with that. What doesn't work, you kind of kill. And so it's not perfect. It does take a lot of responsibility on the agency's owner or the managers to actually implement this and follow through and execute. It's not like turnkey from day one. You have to kind of make it your custom process. But if you do and you have a systematic way of doing that, it really works out well. Bringing them along one at a time, making sure that they master a task before they move on, making sure you incorporate them with the rest of the team, super important. So hopefully this helps. Reach out if there's any follow-up questions on this, but hopefully this kind of touches on a lot of the items that I typically hear in this conversation. So good luck. Hopefully, you take the step and you get your first virtual assistant, and you win just as much as we have, and you can see the success that we've been able to gather and accomplish using Agency VA as a major backbone for our team.